in Tacoma, and I'm talking to a gentleman who's trying to do an art deal on in Tacoma, and today is July the 8th. Is that correct? Ninth, 2025, and I'm looking at this. I'm shooting with light behind me. I know it's bad, but I'm gonna turn the camera. See, here we go, real quick. Okay, here we go. All right, cool.
Hi,
All right. So, give us your name.
I'm Morgan Alexander, and I'm doing some community organizing to get support for turning the Cushman Substation building into an arts, cultural arts community center.
So, why Cushman?
Because it's there.
Okay.
It's a big, underutilized building, and you can't really do too much with it. It would take a lot to, say, convert it into housing. It shouldn't be turned down, it needs to be saved. But also, the original vision goes back probably almost 20 years now to when Tacoma Public Utilities first announced that they were decommissioning and selling off the building. And I was on the North End Neighborhood Council at the time, and we did not want to see the property just sold off to the highest bidder. And so that's kind of where the vision started, as far as keeping it community owned.
Okay, okay.
And here we are, almost 20 years later.
Wow.
TPU has announced that they're leaving the building in 2027. And at which point something can happen to it, which is why we're organizing now.
Okay. So Cushman is considered what part of Tacoma? The north end, south end?
It's in the north end.
North end, okay.
Yeah.
So
Proctor.
Proctor, okay. So I moved here in 2017. I did over 20 years in Seattle when my first career, but I always thought Tacoma and Seattle were like so far away.
I know. Yeah. Well, they kind of are.
No, not really. I'm taking. There's a train,
Yeah.
the Sounder, and there's a bus
Yeah.
that takes you from Pioneer Square to the Dome.
Right.
So it's not that far away.
Yeah.
But the traffic is pretty bad.
Yeah. Driving. Oh, I avoid it.
Yeah, I don't see why. And so, are there other kind of public spaces in Tacoma that are doing this that you know of?
There, as far as I'm aware, is nothing like this in Tacoma.
Wow.
Which it kind of amazes me, having lived in Seattle, where almost every neighborhood has something like this.
Right.
You know, some big, some small. But in Tacoma, it just isn't part of the culture, and so that's what I'm hoping to change.
Okay. Before we started, we were talking about, I live in South Seattle, the East Side. We have the East Side Community Center, which is made from a young man. Unfortunately, he got murdered in a gun violence incident. But his parents and his family raised up enough money from the state to build a community center with full-size swimming pool, tennis courts, basketball courts. They have a kitchen in there and weight rooms and stuff. And so my wife did the sculpture. Believe it, Shirley, as you walk into the building.
Okay.
But that's on the east side of Tacoma.
Right.
And I think it's covered by the parks, Tacoma Parks. But I also think that the Boys and Girls Club uses it most evenings. So, yeah, responsibilities and things like that. So, I guess, there's a library. The library is managed by the Parks Department or from Tacoma or?
Just its own.
Its own.
Just a library.
It's just a library, okay. So, but if it's a library, then the art, how's the art and the library come together? That's a good, I guess, question. Politically, I guess, and so financially, stuff like that. So.
Well, the library is changing kind of what they do, like downtown.
Okay. There's a new one, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to turn it they wanted it to be more like a community center.
Okay.
And which is kind of weird, like library getting rid of all the books, but here we are, technology.
You can't say I'm colonized. Yeah, because, we're in 2025 and AI is taking over everything. And people don't read anymore, right? It's just getting so sad. They're taking cursive writing out of schools.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Okay, so back to the whole political, financial, art, education, community. So you're trying to get people to come together to talk to the city. They want to save the building and turn it into an art space. Pretty much. Okay. So an art makerspace or just okay. I know there's an art makerspace that's on in the ID in National District. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but oh jeez, I'm pulling blank, unfortunately. So again, my wife and our nonprofit used it once or twice. They have a 3D printing machine there. They have a lot of stuff, but I don't know if it's really utilized. So yeah. So how can somebody sign up? So.
There's a Facebook page, there's a website. If you just Google Cushman Community Power Station, that should get you close.
Okay, all right. Now, I thought I heard of something about 100 years.
Yeah. So next year, the Cushman substation building turns 100.
Okay, not the building we're in right now, but the
No,
building
no.
next
The,
door, basically, right?
Yeah, the substation.
Subsidy,
building.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is pretty amazing.
Okay.
Pretty old.
Okay. Again, I'm finding out that a lot of really important things happen in Tacoma. After living in Seattle for 20 years, as I said, it was all, the Black Panther Party, the building that is now the NAM, the Northwest African American History Museum, was occupied by someone that was the longest private occupation of a building in the whole country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even before the deal in the prison in San Francisco.
Huh.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, little things like that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's the Coleman building, Coleman. And so it's a huge building. It was unoccupied, and some brothers took it over, and they squatted in it for months, and the police had to come and kick them out. They sat empty for a couple of years, and then Urban League bought it, and then eventually turned into the museum, Northwest African American History Museum in Seattle. Yeah, so a lot of things like that in Seattle. It's like, again, the Black Panther Party, the first chapter outside of California was in Seattle. And so, and of course you have Quincy Jones, a lot of famous people musically come out of Seattle, but artistically too. So I'm saying same thing is happening out in Tacoma.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff is happening in Tacoma.
Yeah.
And so, wow, okay.
Yeah, and people are definitely interested. I mean, the turnout today is fantastic.
Great, okay. So it's a monthly meeting, a weekly meeting, or?
For now, it's probably going to be like just every other
September might be
month,
absolutely
right.
slammed.
kind of as needed.
But I promise I will come.
But
Yeah,
yeah, just kind
and
of like
August
coming
probably
together.
will be low.
This was just kind of an initial meet and greet, just to
I
see
mean, winter's a
who's interested.
Right.
Is anyone interested?
Okay.
It looks like people are.
Okay, cool. So it doesn't matter
I-
where in Seattle, I mean, where in Tacoma you live.
No.
If you want to see the building, just come through and give support. So, I mean, are we going, you have to go all the way to the mayor?
I think
Or-
pretty
I mean,
soon the new mayoral
politically, where's it-
candidate.
Well, I mean, right
And they also
now, it's
say
about
they have-
community organizing.
Right,
It's about
okay.
the community coming together and developing a vision.
Right.
And basically building a story that is so compelling
I
that
spoke
the
to,
city
in the most
doesn't have
depth,
a
thank
choice
you
but
so
to
much.
listen.
Right.
In the most
Well,
depth,
it's,
and being able to
that's what
ask.
government is, government's from the people, right? We pay them,
I hope so. I'd like to think so.
and we pay our taxes,
I
we
know.
pay our bills and stuff.
I know.
Wow. Any final words, sir?
And he's good at selling.
I mean, I appreciate you giving me this time.
Yeah.
You know who I am, you have no clue who I am. For the first time, pulling out my camera, sitting in front,
Yeah.
and asking all these questions and stuff. So, yeah.
Thanks for offering to do it.
Of course, sure. You will see me again. And so,
getting
okay.
very hard to
Any final words,
figure
Gus?
out what you really
It
believe.
was nice meeting you, and thanks for joining in.
Sure, thanks. Okay. So,
Future vision.
okay, you man at your voice,
I
Dr.
just feel like
Jackson.
anyone who-
I'll talk to
this
you guys
is a
later. All right.
one-time
Peace.
opportunity. We'll never get a building like this
Oh,
again
thanks. Sure.
I don't think so.
in a space.
Yes.
I mean, this
Okay.
is our one chance. That's
So,
really
actually I have a card.